Chapter 6, Lesson 1A. We're starting a new chapter now, and this is about solving one-step subtraction equations. Okay, so your learning target is I know how to solve one-step subtraction equations for a variable. So first, let's start with a definition, and we're going to define a new property. It's the subtraction property of equality, and what that property says is that two sides of an equation will remain equal when you subtract the same number from each side. Okay, so I want to show you something that, what this pretty much looks like. Okay, so here's an example to kind of illustrate what the subtraction property of equality is really saying. So say my family, this is my family over here, here's me, here's my wife, and my two kids over here. Let's just say that we went to the park, and we went to the park with my brother's family. Okay, they have two kids, and they're actually smaller. My brother's smaller than I am. Quite smaller, but let's just say for the sake of this that both of us, our families were the same exact size, okay, in weight. All right, and we went to the park and we got on this big family-sized teeter-totter, and we were trying to see. We were just playing around. Okay, now let's just say for the sake of this that we're the same exact weight. Now, the subtraction property of equality says that if you lose something, if you take something away and you take the same amount away from the other side, it'll still be balanced. So let's say that Capri over here decided to go down the slide, and so she went over and she decided to go down this really awesome slide. And I'm sorry, my drawings are terrible, but it was a really cool slide, and she wanted to go. Okay, obviously, what would happen to this teeter-totter here is my side would instantly go way up, right? Because we just lost one. We would fly up, and we'd probably lose our balance. We'd probably fall off. But my brother's side, they would come way down. We would go way up, right? Unless Capri's cousin, about the same age, Zeke, decided he wanted to go swing too. If he went over and swung too, then what it does is it balances back out, right? The teeter-totter is going to be the same size, or it's going to be balanced. It's going to be equal still because we took off the same amount of weight from each side, so everything is still balanced. That is what this definition is saying, is that two sides of an equation will remain the same when you subtract the same number of people from each side. So it says that if A is equal to B, then A minus C is equal to B minus C. Because A and B are the same, if you're subtracting the same amount, nothing is changing, okay? So here's your key concept. To solve one-step equations, subtraction equations, first you use the subtraction property of equality to subtract a number being added to a variable from both sides of the equal sign to keep the equation balanced, okay? And then the second part of that is just to simplify. So let's go over some examples. So say we need to solve x plus 6 equals 4, and then we need to check our solution. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is just like what the key concept said, is we need to subtract something that is being added to the variable, subtract it from both sides. So we're going to subtract 6 from both sides of the equal sign because we want to keep this teeter-totter balanced, okay? And if we do that, 6 minus 6 is just 0, right? And all we are left with is x, and 4 minus 6 is a negative 2. And therefore, we've simplified that. That's the step 2, is 4 minus 6 is negative 2. And so x equals negative 2. We've now solved for what our variable is equal to. Example 2 is the same type of thing, just that we have more on on the other side of the equation. So we have negative 12 equals 4 plus c. 4 plus c. And so we need to subtract out the 4 from both sides of the equation. And if we do that, that becomes 0. They cancel out, and I'm just left with c on this side. And negative 12 minus 4 is a negative 16. And so c is equal to negative 16. And something I didn't do in example 1 that you really need to make sure that you guys do is the second part here, is it says check your solution. And the way you can do that is by plugging this, whatever c is equal to, back into the original equation. So 4 plus a negative 16 we know that is equal to negative 12, right? Or back up here, if we plug in negative 2 in for x, negative 2 plus 6, that equals 4. So everything checks out. That makes sense. Let's do one last example. All right, I'm going to read example 3. It says a grapefruit weighs 11 ounces, which is 6 more ounces than an apple. Write and solve an equation to find the weight of an apple. So we know pretty much here that a grapefruit is 11 ounces, and that is 6 more than an apple. So an apple plus 6 will give us the 11 ounces for a grapefruit. So we're going to just go plug back the numbers in now. We're going to say 11 is equal to the apple, which we don't know the value of, A, plus 6. And now we can solve to see what this is really equal to. How much does the apple actually weigh? Okay, I'm going to scoop my paper up just a little bit. And we're going to subtract 6 from both sides then, just like we did on all those other equations. And we do that, that equals 0, and we're left with just the apple on one side of the equation, which is equal to 11 minus 6, which is 5. Therefore, an apple weighs 5 ounces. Booyah. There we go. That's all we're doing today. This is just solving subtraction equations, just one step. That's all it takes to solve these types of problems. And that is it. Enjoy. Peace.